Boom. Oh, boom. I'm live. I just realized that the mic was muted. I was just checking that it was on at the very last minute. Good to see you all. My name's Hiko Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. I'm here at 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time every Sunday night. Because I've got nothing else to do, I'm here to spend the time with you as I always do, going through the latest news and goings on in Japan for the week. Let me bring in this mic a little bit closer so I can get the levels up to about there where I want them to be. Hope you're all doing well. Great to see some people already there in the chat. I know I set this up as I often do at the last minute. Um, but yeah, not a lot going on, although some news at the moment, of course, with today, I think actually being the 50th anniversary of Okinawa being returned to Japan. Yeah, all in all, a few interesting stories this week. I managed to get into a little bit of trouble on Twitter being a little bit cheeky, but yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. But first of all, great to see we've got Quentin Rankid, Ben Duncan, December Clouds, One Johnson, Ada Void, and Aaron. Bada boom, wave there in the chat. Great to see everybody rocking in. Hope that you're all doing well. Yeah, Japan is Tokyo is entering the suckiest, well, the beginning of the 6 month weather sucks period. Not quite rainy season yet, but sort of getting a preview of that at the moment. But yeah, we'll soon, probably by the end of May, be getting like a month of rain, followed by 3 or 4 months of just solid misery heat. Yeah, I guess we can always look forward to October when the weather will start to improve again. Some interesting things for me with everything opening up. All of a sudden now at work, everybody's getting like meetings scheduled and trips scheduled. I was actually scheduled to fly right when the borders closed to go to Singapore for a meeting. And yeah, it looks like I think I mentioned last week I've got another one. It looks like I'll be flying in June, which I'm actually looking forward to. Although I must admit, I am not so much looking forward to the typical going out drinking and karaoke and all that stuff. I honestly just sort of want to go running and stay in the hotel as much as possible outside of the actual work stuff. I have to figure out the right balance of that. But I've had another thing. I've been asked to go to a kind of a big internal meeting, to go help out with an issue in Korea next week. I've been looking this up. Apparently, for Korea is a bit like Japan at the moment. There's no tourism. They do allow short-term business trips, however, which is what this will be. But I've got to go and actually apply for a regular visa the old-fashioned way. There's no automatic visa like there typically is at the moment because they've shut all of that down. So I'm going to go to the Korean embassy tomorrow. And all going well, I'll be actually going to Seoul, probably just for like 2 days or 3 days next week. But the other part of it is that the story at home is that, although there's no mandatory quarantining, a lot of people are doing this actually. And well, two things. One, it seems like everybody who's traveling right now, I don't know how it is for other people watching this, but for people I know who for work and other things have traveled, everybody is catching corona while they're traveling. A bunch of people have been on work trips, have been to Australia, Europe, places like that, and they're all getting caught with positive PCR tests on the way back into the country. Even ones that are not, and there's not many, the percentage of people that seem to be getting corona when they go overseas seems to be very high at the moment. But even without that, a lot of people coming back in are, and I've been told by the family, go stay in a hotel for a week. Which is, I guess, another part of the reason I just want to stay and lock myself in the hotel for everything other than what I need to do for work, and to wear masks as much as possible when I'm out, when I'm traveling. But yeah, it looks like when I get back, I'm probably going to be in a hotel. So next week I'm going to be here, but week after next, just thinking how it will work. Yeah, I'll possibly be doing a Tokyo Tonight from self-imposed quarantine in a Japanese hotel. So I guess that'll be fun. It might not even be a feasible setup to be able to stream, of course. In fact, I think because I won't have my home computer, it'll be a work computer. I'll have to figure out if I could even do it. I might have to skip a week. And I'll be doing the same thing again when I go to Singapore. So there's that. So there might be a couple of breaks. We'll see what I can figure out. I must admit, part of me is looking forward to actually, and just the fact that this last trip that I did a couple of weeks ago during Golden Week, I traveled to Nagatoro. It was very nice. Spent a day trip there with the lad, and that was the first trip outside of the Yamanote line that I've taken since the pandemic started. Well, second trip outside of the Yamanote line. I went to Kichijoji for shoes, and then I realized that they weren't there, so I came back again. That's the only time I've been outside the Yamanote line. So yeah, the getting a little bit more adventurous, but not really looking forward to the idea of just for the sake of a single meeting on a single day, having to spend a week and a half kind of quarantining after that. But, if you factor at least traveling, being in hotels. But I suppose it's a nice sign of a return to normalcy. So that's what's going on with me. Demaster, great to have you in here. And yes, glad that you made it indeed. Looking forward to the next hour. Soul food. I love soul food too. And this is one of my dilemmas, actually. So my co-workers in Korea, they're like, wow, we can't wait to see you. Let's all go out for bulgogi. And I'm like, yeah, bulgogi, or even like pokum. Just honestly, like the stir-fried meat and veg in Korea with gochujang and everything. Korean food is one of my favorite foods. And getting taken out in Seoul to go and eat, honestly, anything. I really do love Korean food. But I wonder, given that when things return to normal, I'm likely to be traveling to Korea regularly. I'm not sure that this is quite the trip to go and do the crazy socializing. I'm just thinking maybe this is just a trip where I just get room service. But there again, how can I pass up on that? So I'm sort of thinking about that at the moment. But they're saying, hey, let's go out for barbecue. And I'm like, hell yeah. So I think I'm probably going to end up doing it, but I really, really do want to be careful. I don't want to it's just, if I can avoid it, maybe it's impossible to avoid it, but I really like to, seeing a lot of people have had COVID. And even when the symptoms weren't bad, long COVID is a thing. A lot of people get it. It seems to mess with a lot of people. So, if I can avoid it, I don't want to get it. I'm not treating it at this point like it's an inevitability. I've been vaccinated 3 times, so I guess I'm as protected as you can be at the moment. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, great to see more people rocking. And Andrea Moboy, great to see you. Dan H, I should just take a break, have a bit of a rest from Tokyo tonight if that's the case. Yeah, certainly. If I'm in the hotel, I might not have. I think if I'm spending a week, in self-imposed quarantine when I get back, we'll see how I'm feeling. I might have nothing better to do. I might be all up for a Tokyo tonight, but I suspect it'll be a bit probably of a hassle, and I might just skip that week. I'm also actually just contemplating. It'll be a quarantine really where, I won't be able to go home and I'll want to get tested and just make sure I'm safe to go home. But it's not a real quarantine. So I might actually take a day off work and, go do some exercise and do stuff like that. Like I say, it's, so I'm sort of thinking what to do. I could probably just use the rest anyway. So I'm kind of looking forward to, I'll figure out how to do that. But yes, Erin says barbecue and all the sides. She would not be able to pass that up. And I probably can't pass it up either, but I've got to figure it out. I must admit, I have done bulgogi like by myself. I've been backpacking in Korea, and although bulgogi like alone is kind of, I felt sad. I felt like, well, I'm in Korea. I'm not going to not have bulgogi just because I'm by myself. I'm going to do this. But I went and, in the end of the day, I did it. And I felt very self-conscious and alone and sad. But then a table next to me of some Russian guys and their Korean girlfriends said, dude, you look really lonely. Come eat with us. And I had a great night out at like American military country western bars with these Russian guys and their Korean girlfriends. It turned into a great night. So honestly, being a lonely guy, eating bulgogi in Seoul in Itaewon years and years ago, kind of turned out to be, well, it turned out okay, at least for the first, for the first 75%. It took some weird turns towards the end, but yeah, like I say, stuff. I will not be getting myself into any situations like that again, ever in my life. But yes. Great to see some new names. Bob Sonder, nice to have you in here on your lunchtime bank holiday Ireland. Great to have someone from Ireland. Great to see a new name. Really do love seeing people come in here. Also great to see someone called NM Soul Food. You came in perfectly. Pewdiepie collab video coming soon. Oh yeah, all the every day. What would I do? What would I do in a video with Pewdiepie? I love to play it. Well, I play Fortnite badly. I could perhaps do that. I don't know. One Johnson, travel related. Not sure I'm interested though. Pewdiepie migrated to Japan. Whoa, I didn't catch that. You know what? PDR-san had a video today talking about biggest YouTubers in Japan. He said, isn't that PewDiePie now? And I didn't quite get that. I thought, look, PewDiePie does stuff about Japan. I didn't realize he was in Japan. Well, that's weird. I mean, if this was 2008, we would have invited him to the Hanami, and hell, he probably would have come. Well, that's an interesting thing. I had no idea about that. So yeah, who knows? Maybe we could do a collab, although I still don't see how that would happen. Eric Bailey, I feel better. Thank you. Glad that you made it. Never fear. Eric Bailey is here, says Shubas. Great to have you with us, Shubas. Odie Jr. as well. Boom from the end of a vacation in Kentucky. Nice. What does one do at a vacation in Kentucky? Coming from a place where we only know the fried chicken. It's like when you live in New Zealand, your media exposure to Kentucky is basically banjos and fried chicken. So I don't know. I mean, that which in itself would still be a good vacation. I hope that. But I'd love to hear what one does on a vacation in Kentucky, because I'm sure there's more than just that. Although those would be awesome things. Nearly decades, says Bob Sonder. Well, I'm very glad that you said hello. It's great to see you in there. To everybody, remember, do what One Johnson did, and yeah, just say my name. Yeah, you don't even have to put the @ mark on. It'll flash up orange, as you can see. I will pay more attention to those as I skim through the comments quickly to comment back. I'll be posting an audio version of this, as I've been doing lately. It won't be edited, so you'll get to hear your awesome names being read out if you do comment. Remember to like. That's really pretty much all. Pay me in likes and throw peanuts at the screen, but click like if you do that. In fact, yes, I think I've said this before. I've heard other people sign off like this. If you like the video, leave a comment and a like, and remember to subscribe. And if you hate the video, leave a comment telling me about that, and also like and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, basically do all of those good things. The Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. That sounds pretty cool. As a Kentuckian, wow, we've got a Kentuckian. We also have horses and bourbon. I thought bourbon was a Louisiana thing. Plus all the coal you can burn. Well, that sounds pretty good. Bourbon, says Tokyo Astro. Hi from Pakistan, says Tudom. Hi, great to have Pakistan rocking in again. Good to see you, Tudom. Wow. I mean, horses is cool, and I could see how you would have bourbon as well, although I associate that with more of a New Orleans thing. But I guess bourbon gets around everywhere. There you go. That's pretty cool. Steve Martin, by the way, big banjo guy. Sorry, I realize I'm probably stereotyping, but I think he hangs out in Kentucky and when he banjos. I don't know, but I'm a big fan of Steve Martin, so he gets a pass if he's in Kentucky. Anyway, let's dive into the very few topics that I have, and if I run out of time, I'm going to play some tunes. So let's do that. Oh yeah, first thing, I'm kind of proud of myself. I have mice. I have mouses, or mice, or whatever you call them. I discovered a long time ago that the best mouse ever, and wait a minute, I can't actually see it at the moment. I cleared my desk just before I started doing this. Where'd it go? Oh, it's right here in front of me. This fella. This is the original Logitech MX mouse, and it is the best. Well, it was the best mouse until they made the MX2 and now the MX3, which I also have, and I use these for my different work and home PCs. I just like it. Gives me a better sense of switching rather than having to play with the switches on the back to be able to go between these. But yeah, I've been using this for like 15 years, and it's one of these things that most one mouse hardly seems different from another, I know, but when you have a good one, it really makes it hard to notice. It makes it hard to go back to one that's not as good. And to me, and plus it's worth paying $100 for one. If you think again about the time, it's like the same as the keyboard. You think of the amount of time that you're going to be spending in your life using a mouse, and if there's a noticeable difference between a good one and a bad one, it's worth paying a little bit extra for a good one. So yeah, the MX Master, this one that I've had for like, geez, probably 10, 15 years. I think I've had this since I was working at the law firm, and it's awesome. And the other day, it just randomly didn't work anymore, and it broke my heart. You could still click, but it wouldn't. The icon disappeared, and I was looking up buying. Okay, I was using the switch on the back of the Series 3 one, thinking, okay, well, I've got to get a new Series 3 one. I was going to spend $130. And then I sort of started Googling around on the problem that I was having with the cursor not working. And it turns out that instead of buying a new mouse, I found out that if I just buy a really strange toy screwdriver called a T5 that is basically for funny shaped small screws, I could basically dismantle this and loosen some screws inside and put it back together and fix it. And it worked. All of these, that's what I love about YouTube, is that so all of these things that I would have just thrown this away, and gone and spent hundreds of dollars. Instead, I just got like a $5 screwdriver and I fixed it, and I feel like I did something awesome and I saved a lot of money, and it still is a brilliant mouse. So yeah, super happy about that. So YouTube continues to be awesome. That's what I did on that first video. Dan H. Apparently one of PewDiePie's favorite channels is Tikyo Sam. Ooh, really? So it's not completely out of the possibility. Tikyo Sam, you have to respect Tikyo Sam. He is who he is, and he doesn't mind. He doesn't self-censor. He doesn't hold back or anything like that. He is the character that he is. And that character has taken him places. He's been on big US channels. He's done collabs with famous porn stars. He's been to Coachella and music festivals. I totally believe that PewDiePie would watch him. I mean, I do get that. Although I don't think that gives me any more hope of collabing with PewDiePie. But there again, I'm not really shooting for the collabing with PewDiePie thing. Although I still think it's super interesting that he's coming to Japan. I'm going to look that one up and see what's behind that. I'm also a little bit surprised he got in, but congrats. Derby was incredible this year, says Tudom. The Kentucky Derby. Okay, that's right, the horse race. Yes, indeed. Was it incredible? I don't know, but that's pretty cool. Shubis is a trackpad kind of guy. Man, I can't stand trackpads. So yeah, congrats to you if you can get used to it, but they drive me crazy. So yeah. The second one, let's see if I can get the photo out of this to show properly. Again, not Japan related, but kind of Japan related, at least in the sense that I was watching, again, one of my favorite YouTube channels, Anton Petrov. He is this very nice Canadian-Russian guy who lives in, I didn't realize until this week, he lives in South Korea, actually. So he was streaming at a good time for me, live covering the European announcement of the Event Horizon Telescope announcement of the first ever photo, the first ever image of the Sagittarius A supermassive black hole, which I know sounds maybe boring, but what this is. The Sagittarius A black hole is the supermassive black hole with like 4 million masses of the sun basically cramped into a very, very small black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. He talked for ages about this. So that black hole is basically the center of our galaxy. This is the heart of our galaxy. We cannot normally see it because there's so much dust and crap flying around at rapid speed at the center of the galaxy. It's like looking into a cloudy tornado, so you can't see through it. But this is not real light. This is radio light. So basically, by using a whole lot of radio telescopes all around the planet and infrared light sort of imaging, they managed to make a combined photo which could sort of see through this crazy cloud to see the actual, and the black hole, of course, is in the center there, but there's basically all the hot plasma of stuff going around. It's the, from the movie Gravity, that's all the hot plasma going around the edge of the event horizon of the black hole. That is basically it doesn't actually like exert gravity on us. It doesn't actually it's not like the sun pulling on all of the planets in the solar system. It's not quite like that. Apparently the galaxy is just so massive that it just operates on its own, combined mass. It spins around. But this is basically the center where everything eventually falls into. So this is a bit like discovering our own sun in a way. I mean, just as, we go around our sun orbits essentially around this. In the center of our galaxy. It's just super cool that we are now able to see it for the first time. Of course, this is the second one of these that's been imaged. The other one was around M87, which is a nearby star cluster. But right now, just all the science and space stuff at the moment, the way it still is just jumping ahead is just so mind-blowing, and these photos are going to get better. But just the fact that just to watch the live announcement of this is like, this is like discovering that the Earth isn't flat kind of level, being able to see the black hole at the center of our galaxy for the first time. To me, that was super cool. The name of the YouTuber is Anton Petrov. He is a very nice guy. And he just does space and science videos every day. He's a very, very good science communicator. And I'm a big fan of his channel. And it was fun to watch him do that live. So, yeah. Shibis, indeed, he rocks with quality infos. He really does. He borders that line. He's not making his show for 4-year-olds, so it's not easy all the time. But he's not like I think it's Ed Astrom or PBS Space. PBS Space I watch and I go cross-eyed. The way he talks about quantum science and stuff like that, that is like too hard for me. I am not smart enough to listen to that. I try to just get what I can out of that. But Anton Petrov does hard subjects, but he does them just hard enough that I can just understand them, which I love anyway. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Big The big announcement, by the way, there weren't a lot of stories this week. I've only got 4 more, so hopefully I'll get into some music stuff. But yeah, the next story that I have, kind of a big deal. So the Japanese government spokesperson, the cabinet spokesperson, is this guy Hirokazu Matsuno. He announced this week that the government has decided that the government now actually recommends that people remove masks outdoors if they can stay 2 or more meters apart from other people. Bearing in mind that particularly with summer coming up and things like heat stroke and so on being a factor, the government kind of wants to start setting some sort of normalization where at least outside people don't have to wear masks everywhere, and starting to set that expectation. Which was interesting. Had a couple of reactions. First of all, the governor of Tokyo responded, "What you talking about, Willis?" Where basically she said, "Hey, the government should really talk to everybody and get some alignment before it's going to start making new declarations about masks." Because basically the consensus has been for everyone, just please wear masks all the time and don't go outside and don't do anything. I mean, there's been no mask mandates in Japan. It's all been sort of voluntary asking and stuff like that. But there have been guidance which says that you should wear masks, although they've said about the social distancing. But generally, they've also encouraged masks at the same time on top of that. The result of that is, at least where I am, and I'm in central Tokyo, so I'm in a part of Tokyo where probably a slight majority of people don't own cars at all. So basically, I think I can understand if you're getting into a car, you wouldn't wear the mask in the car. So for people in car areas, it's probably more, there's a lot more putting on and taking off masks. Where I live in Tokyo, you basically put on a mask when you leave the door and you take it off when you get home again. It's miserable, but there's no leaving the house. It's like not wearing trousers, going out without a mask. And the result of that is I've been paying attention in my neighborhood and where I go around. The last few days, I've seen 2 people with no masks. One was a person who was coming back from tennis courts and had his tennis racket over his shoulder. And when he went up to a bus stop, the bus was coming. He put on a mask right away. And another guy was a foreign guy on a bicycle, and that was it. 100% mask compliance, at least where I am. And I get it. Maybe the government's trying to start to change that, and maybe that's a good idea in many ways. Because if they're talking about resuming tourism, what's clearly going to happen is, where particularly with tourism, is that when you have a lot of people who aren't from here come to Japan and they hear that there's no mask mandate, even if they see people wearing masks, they're going to say, well, do I have to wear a mask? And they'll say no, and then they'll say, oh great, yay everybody, hello, how are you? And everybody's going to think, wow, all foreigners are assholes, and I'm going to get painted with that brush. So it's going to be bad for how the foreigners are going to look like a-holes, and they're going to make the rest of us foreigners who live here, who follow the rules, look like a-holes. But again, it's going to cause tension as well with Japanese people as well. And Japanese people, frankly, the government realizes they need tourists back into Japan, and Japanese people are going to need to chill out when they don't follow all of the unwritten rules that have been developed during the pandemic here. So I think it's good, in a way, for the reopening of Japan, that the government is saying, hey, let's just start chilling out with the masks. But that said, where the situation is right now, I mean, look, I've been through 2 years of running, 3 times a week in, 90% humidity and, near 100 degree Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius heat, like 3 times a week with a mask on. And I don't do it because I'm worried about getting COVID, and I'm not worried about giving people COVID. I do it because if I run without a mask, people are going to look at me and say, that foreigner is an asshole and we should kick him out of the country. I just don't want to deal with the dirty looks. And you know what? I've seen people walking around without masks, and I've not only seen other people giving that person dirty looks, I've probably caught myself also giving that person a dirty look, because you think, hey, dude, everybody here, get a clue, read the room. Everybody here is wearing a mask. What's your problem? Um, and you know what? There is a thing that, again, whether are being an a-hole or not is subjective. It's not an objective thing. It's subjective. It's based on, it's a judgment that people make. That is an a-hole. And, some person might look at that person who's being an a-hole and think, wow, that person's so cool or awesome. But yeah, even when I pointed out today that, at least I get that the government's trying to change the cultural norm that's evolved of, basically like everybody wears burqas in Japan now, just basically, at least in central Tokyo. By the way, lots of people are responding to this tweet that I put out saying that it's different in different areas. But, I was sort of pointing out that at the moment, going around without wearing a mask is taken as a declaration that I intend to act like an a-hole. To which a lot of people responded, hey, I've stopped wearing a mask ages ago. One person actually said, I'd rather be an a-hole than a sheepdog. To which I didn't say anything, but I thought, wow, you just demonstrated my point perfectly. That's fine. You do you. And honestly, I can't fault someone who's saying that it's illogical. Why should I wear a mask if there's no one around? If I live in a quiet country town and I'm walking down the street and it's hot and it's humid and, I'm not bothering anybody and I'm keeping social distance, why should I have to wear a mask? And you know what? You are completely logical and right. But everybody in my neighborhood wears masks and everybody gives the eye of shame to anybody who doesn't wear masks. So until it feels like it's safe, I'm going to wear mine. And that's kind of how Japan works. And that's why things have gone relatively well. And I know that's all about to come to an end and it's going to be a big adjustment. And, maybe the government's actually being good in that regard about that. But I don't feel brave enough to break the rules yet. And hell, I'm just thinking, even when I go to Singapore and Korea, even if I'm the only person wearing a mask, I'm probably going to keep doing it because I don't want the cooties. I'm not going to give people dirty looks for not wearing masks in Singapore or Korea. If that's what they've decided to do, that's cool. But I must admit, I'm going to be on edge myself about, I've developed the Japanese sense of, it's like the movie Sixth Sense with the little kid where, I see germs. It's like that, I see dead people. It's for Japanese people, they just have this sense where they see germs when they're not really there. So yeah, I am going to have to figure this one out. I'm going to keep wearing them at least until I see like half of the people or whatever have stopped wearing them. But yeah, Dan H says, I love the article and story I shared on Twitter with Abe and Bank of Japan. Oh yeah. Where Abe said that the Bank of Japan is I didn't even put this one on my list for this week, but since you raised it, Dan H, yeah, I thought that was Shinzo Abe is turning into like I don't know, it's like the spirit of Shinto Ishihara like was going to rise. Well, let's face it, it was going to go down into hell. It was going down, and then it looked up and it said, hey, Shinzo's still there, maybe we can borrow that, and it went back up and it went into Shinzo Abe, and Shinzo Abe has just started channeling Shintaro Ishihara, the controversial right-wing governor of Tokyo, who basically, Shintaro Ishihara was the mischievous, right-wing grandfather who would always say kind of crazy shit that was always kind of right, but you're not supposed to say. Abe's been doing that lately. He's saying, yeah, Japan, let's face it, China's got nukes, Japan's got to have nukes. We should at least be talking about this. And everyone's like, no, you can't talk about the nukes. And again, you're kind of an asshole for bringing it up, but I'm saying that word a lot today. But let's face it, it's the subjects that I'm talking about. But he's kind of right. Saying, Abe is saying that, Japan should get a regular military. Japan spends all this money on the military. It's the 5th biggest military in the world, and yet it pretends it doesn't have one. It should just declare that it has a real military and join NATO. And if Russia has a problem with it, just say screw you, guy. And again, everyone's like, no, we can't change the constitution because nobody wants to do it. And again, that's also right. You're not supposed to talk about it. It's a taboo. But he's saying it. I think he's enjoying a little bit too much being the retired prime minister and the biggest one lately. Well, I said the biggest one, but what Dan H is talking about, that he said, the Bank of Japan, the central bank that manages monetary policy in Japan and is completely independent from the government. That bank, the Central Bank of Japan, in truth, it's just a subsidiary of the government. And in every country, this is true. You look at America, you look at the Fed and so on. Yes, it's supposed to be independent, but the government puts all sorts of pressure on their central banks to do what they want. They print money or we'll put you in jail. They do this, and they do work hand in hand, and that was definitely true And Abe basically made sure that his appointee would be a yes man for the Bank of Japan, and it's been working like that ever since. It's been sort of his policy where the government, frankly, just nationalized in all but name the Bank of Japan. But the point is, even when you do that, even when you basically take over the Bank of Japan and it really, is kind of losing its independence, you're not supposed to actually say that it's actually a subsidiary of the government, even if that's what it actually is. But he came out and just said that. Again, everybody came out and said, no, you're not supposed to say that. And the Bank of Japan chairperson said, no, we're an independent body. But yes, again, Abe definitely finding his inner Shintaro Ishihara lately. And yeah. I mean, like Ishihara, he provides mischievous entertainment value, and he's kind of a little bit right about everything that he's saying, even though kind of in a scummy kind of a way. But yeah. So glad you appreciated that. Whoa, and thank you, Aaron, for sharing the links. I do appreciate that. You're awesome at this sort of thing. I do really appreciate that. Thank you, Aaron. Always. Don't forget the like button. Indeed, everybody, like if you're liking. There's only 11 likes and 28 people, so smash that like button. I think that's what they say. If you don't like the video, also please smash the like button. What else is going on in Japan? Not a lot of. Oh yeah, so this was the saddest. I love maps. I love charts. I love diagrams. And I don't know, you can show me a cartoon or tell me a funny story or do a stand-up routine, and yet I find charts to be among the most entertaining things anywhere. So I'm listening to the news the other week, and just after Golden Week, the inevitable, the bumping cases after Golden Week. And, cases all over Japan, of course, as you expect. People go out, they're traveling, they're seeing people. And cases go up, and inevitably, everywhere in the country, cases go up. And, this map is just like that Sesame Street song that in New Zealand, we only had one channel when I was a kid, and everyone watched Sesame Street. So when I was in high school and people wanted to, like, pick on someone, in New Zealand, it's a lot like Japan. You just basically pick out anyone who's different. They would sing the song, one of these prefectures ain't quite like the other. One of these things ain't quite the same. So you got this thing about every single prefecture in Japan increased COVID, based on, no doubt, travel and people going to these prefectures. Actually, to be fair, the reason that all of these prefectures went up week over week is that a lot of the testing places were closed over Golden Week. So you've got a backlog of testing cases. So even just from the backlog of cases, there was going to be a jump after Golden Week, but also, of course, there was extra traveling and moving around. But the fact that, there's this one prefecture out of all 47, but there's this one prefecture that also just happens to be consistently voted as the least attractive prefecture in Japan, and the 47th most desirable tourist destination in Japan is the one prefecture that comes out as number 47. I thought this was hilarious. So I took a screen cap and I tweeted it, and I got a lot of reactions, a lot of people saying I'm being brutally mean to Ibaraki. Look, I like Ibaraki. Some of my best friends are from Ibaraki. In terms of, like, if you're living in Tokyo and you want to go surfing, Ibaraki, well, Chiba is honestly where it's kind of at, but Ibaraki, the water is cleaner. It's freezing cold. You gotta wear a wetsuit. But like, I would go to Kashima or Owarai any day over Shonan. Down in Shonan, 2 out of every 3 days you can't surf because the waves aren't good enough. When it is good enough, the water's full of garbage. Every wave has 50 like club hosts who can't bottom turn. If they can, they'll just drop in front of you. So you've got people in Ibaraki, and I mean this in a good way. If you drop in on someone will punch you or attack you. And if you get aggro with somebody who drops in on you, they may pull out the local trump card on you, which may or may not have happened to me, being aggro with somebody before up there. But the fact is, when people know what the rules are and follow and enforce them, it's better and more fun for everyone. And the beaches are nicer, the waves are better. So like for surfing up and down, I'd much rather go to Ibaraki than go to the more famous surfing places in Kanagawa Prefecture south of Tokyo, and it's really close by. Look, they've got mountains, they've got onsen, you can even ski in Ibaraki, I think we've got a mountain or two there. I might be getting it mixed up with Gunma, I don't know, but I know that you can surf there, and that's got to be worth something. So, I do think that the hate on Ibaraki is a little bit undeserved. Basically, the reason it gets a little bit of hate as a tourist destination is it is Japan's most famous producer of natto. which the whole western half of Japan hates, as well as pretty much everyone outside of Japan. I mean, it's pretty much just like a circle around the eastern half of Japan that eats natto. And it all comes from Ibaraki. So, you got to be prepared for some natto if you go up there. And I can tolerate that. And I guess it's also known for the extension Chibaraki, the northern Chiba, southern Ibaraki sort of plains, which are a bit featureless and full of sort of factories and stuff like that. But, plus, of course, it is also famous for having, Yankees and bossozoku and kind of people who not only are kind of, they look like punks that have been trapped in a 20-year time. That's just a thing. It's just their culture, okay, and you have to respect it. It's a bit like Kitakyushu's sort of new coming of age ceremony, like all year. The bosses are up there, and they have a hilarious accent. But I like Ibaraki, and everyone should stop being mean to them, even though it's so unattractive that even COVID doesn't want to go there. I can just imagine the Ibaraki tourism board looking at each other saying, "Quick, we have to figure out a way to spread COVID so that we don't look unpopular." This is a really awkward situation. This is like being at a school where all the popular kids start getting COVID, so all the less popular kids are thinking that, yeah, we got to get COVID too, so that we look like we're one of the popular kids. Look, Ibaraki. I did again. I threw out a few theories to try to soften the blow of this to the many Ibaraki fans that were on Twitter. I pointed out the government basically gives Dentsu a marketing monopoly over all advertising in Japan. I think they should make Dentsu work for the money. Make Ibaraki popular again. Okay, again is an exaggeration. But yeah, do some TV dramas, do some market placement of Ibaraki. There must be a way to spin this positively. That if you're afraid of COVID, go to Ibaraki. Yeah, that's not going to work. But that's why I'm not in advertising. But there has to be some way to spin this, or either that, or the tourism people have to figure out a way to spread COVID so it stops standing out like that. But yeah, anyway, Ibaraki, every single prefecture in Japan that anyone would ever want to go to for any reason saw an increase after Golden Week. That's right. The other reaction was, and how come Aichi prefecture hadn't increased? But people could still go to Aichi prefecture like by accident. It's halfway between Tokyo and Osaka. There's all sorts of reasons people could find their way into Nagoya. Really, Ibaraki, you have to want to go to. I think that's their challenge. Anyway, that was some fun. I like Ibaraki. If or when I ever go back to surfing, I'm going straight back to Ibaraki. So much love for Ibaraki, but that is a hilarious map. The fact that they showed this map, it's basically just a map of where is Ibaraki, but it's being presented as the 46 prefectures with week-over-week increase in COVID. That's what they call the map. It's literally just a map with Ibaraki popping out in blue. It's just brutal at HK. I do like that. Into the comments, we've got believe in yourself. Great to have you in here, Phil. Nice to see you. We've got probably can't go back until 2024, but no shame. But hopefully the look of shame for no mask is gone by then. Yeah, I think it probably will. Although if you've got a cold or something, you should still put one on. Not that it ever bothered me. I wear masks when required, but I don't like that awkward feeling. Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's just another one of those social rules that it makes it really hard to live in Japan in the beginning. Like there are like the other million rules, but this is a really heavy one that's coming on top. So yeah, I think that'll be the case. It'll be better, but there'll be some new rules about that. You won't, you'll have to have one probably on you, and if you have a sneeze or cough, you'll be expected to put one on or something like that. But yeah. Dan H, what are my thoughts about Elliott leaving Japan and investing in Japan? It looks like Toshiba is going to be bought by a foreign company 10 interested parties at the moment. Yeah, I saw that. I must admit, there was a time in my life when I used to set up those investment funds. When I was working in a law firm and I was doing corporate, it was a really interesting thing. It's technically illegal for companies incorporated in the Cayman Islands, for example, or BVI to operate in Japan. The company law actually prohibits companies to be based in tax havens. And we said to them, well, we have a bunch of investment funds that are looking to set up Tokyo branches to pour billions of dollars into Japan, and you're going to declare them illegal under the company's law? And the company's office was like, no, no, we don't mean them. We don't want Japanese companies setting themselves up in the Caymans to avoid Japanese taxes. But we perfectly welcome, rich hedge funds that want to come and pour money into Japan. We're not going to do anything about that. And we were like, okay, do you want to put that in writing for us, please? And they were like, no. So we had to go back to these hedge funds who saw that they'd been made illegal and tell them that, yeah, the government says that they totally welcome your money, but they're not going to say that you're not illegal, but please come and don't go away. And these are some of the many problems I think that companies like Elliott have coming in Japan. The fact that they were fairly activist, I think, as a shareholder organization, but I think one of just the fact that um, the travel, I'm sure is a big reason that they're probably leaving, and this is another reason that the government's probably preparing the ground for opening the country again, because they're realizing that it's not just the tourism money that's going. The collapse of the yen is just partly that people are just not interested in moving money into Japan anymore, because there are lots of cases now where, again, these activist sort of companies and foreign investors and foreign, even foreign CEOs and so on. Japan is looking in many ways, with a lot of recent rules and so on, increasingly protectionist and hostile towards, open trade and investment. And the government needs to desperately undo that, because the economy is going to be demographically on a long-term downward trend, and to be able to stabilize that, it needs those foreign investors and those groups like Elliott are going to help balance that out and keep the Japanese economy going with new money coming in. So it's bad for the Japanese government, but I think it's inevitable that there are a lot of particularly small funds which are subject to just the opinions of 5 or 10 people feeling unwelcome or apparently unable to get any work done, or who resent not being able to travel back to their homes while they're here to bring money into the country, saying we should just fold up the office. I don't know if that was the story, but Japanese government policies, they might think that they're doing everything on a macro level, but if you do anything that affects people seriously on a personal level, like prohibiting you from traveling for 2 years, that might make a lot of companies decide it's not worth being here to spend the money, especially when you consider everything else. I do not know the specific reasons why Elliott decided to leave, but I think, in a way, it's a good thing that hopefully it will make the Japanese government realize that they actually need these kind of companies, and they need to be attractive towards those places. Japan was just hoping that it would attract all the investment funds and so on that would leave Hong Kong by default. And to me, it seems ridiculous that those funds would go, for example, to Seoul, to Korea, or places like that as an alternative to Hong Kong over Tokyo. But Tokyo is doing everything to mess it up. And yeah, certainly they've had pretty strong headwinds here, on top of everything else. It'd be pretty brutal working for them. So the fact that I didn't know about the 10 companies looking to buy up Toshiba, but, again, that they would be looking to break apart and strip and sell the company, which is kind of a shame, although Toshiba is a classic example of a company that has really overextended itself into too many industries. And some which seem like smart bets, like nuclear power and stuff like that, but which just the Westinghouse investment, all those other sorts of things just didn't work out well. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's hopefully the government takes it as a signal that they're not acting in a way that's attractive towards foreign investment, and that doubled up with the performance of the yen and other things at the moment. I hope it adds up to the government realizing that reopening has to not just be for tourists, it has to be for capital. So we'll see. Yeah, good call, Dan H, as always. Sanded Sir, good to see you. Good to have you in here. Ibaraki is good. I love, if I had a rental car right now, I would drive to probably either Kashima to go surfing or Tateyama. And Tateyama is awesome at the bottom of Chiba, but yeah, those are like, for a day trip from Tokyo, I'd want to go to the beach, and I wouldn't want to go to Yokohama because it's crowded and the water's full of garbage, and you don't know if there are going to be waves there or not. But Chiba or Ibaraki, you've got real beaches up there, so yeah, I would totally do that. Kind of good news. Yeah, last year Japan accepted the highest number of refugees on record. Remember, it's gone up from previous years of like 20 a few years ago, according to this article. 44 in 2020. So again, it's gone to 74 is a good increase, but remembering that most Western countries accept tens of thousands every year. And I mean, also a good sign that these were not necessarily Ukraine. In fact, Japan doesn't recognize those specifically as refugees. So most of the refugees that have been recognized have been people from Myanmar, for example, um, others from Afghanistan, 4 people from Iran, 3 from Yemen. You think of everything going on there. Um, so in a way, good that they're accepting so many Myanmar. And again, when you think about that, probably a lot of those people would be students who have to go home. Um, but yeah, yeah. I'd love to go to Kochi, by the way, DJ Sunny Side Up. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, lately I've been starting to think about that. Lad's getting a little bit bigger. I was thinking when he gets to the point that he doesn't want to spend weekends with me anymore, I'm probably gonna, yeah, try to reclaim. I'll go through my midlife crisis and probably take up surfing again, and I'd love to get down there. Back on refugees, though, I suspect, this is just a guess, that, for example, the large number of Myanmar refugees are probably people like students or people already in Japan when the coup took place that were afraid to go back, probably that were political activists in Japan or connected to political activists back in Myanmar and had real fears of being arrested if they went back home. So for those people, yeah, it's probably easy to recognize people that are already here. I still think a huge problem here that Japan is just fundamentally breaching its international obligations to give refuge to people who need it. That's what it's for. These are not immigrants. This is a totally separate thing to immigration. I've talked about this before, but baby steps. And that is that all my topics? I think it is. I think that is all my topics, and I've finished 10 minutes early, so I can make some music. Unless you've got questions or topics for me, it wasn't a lot there. Out of nuts. I hope you mean throwing peanuts at the screen, or are you talking to get your squirrels in, folks? That's right. Load me up here. Sainted sir, please keep them in your pants. Aaron, for me, have I seen any of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? God, I've tried not to. Any thoughts on this insane subject? Sorry, not related to JP. Hey, I'm an open. Ask me anything now. I don't have a lot of topics this week. Man, that's a topic I do not want to touch with a barge pole. Both sound like very flawed people in their own ways, and it's a little bit sad, I suppose, when these things end up in a forum like that talking about. But look, it's, I suppose, as a dude, um, I can understand the idea that there are physically abusive women that they exist, and that they use the stereotype that men, it's not masculine to admit to being physically abused by a woman, and taking advantage of that as a source of power, which it sounds like, in the voice recordings and everything, something that she was exploiting is part of the abuse of him, and, pretty harsh physical abuse. All of that, she seems like a terrible person. Depp has his own flaws, but it sounds to me like good on him for actually taking her to court for defamation over stuff which it seems he could prove were lies. But I've deliberately tried not to get to. I feel icky when I start looking at that for like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. Those clips, and they're all pretty horrible and disturbing. And honestly, to me, it's sort of course, they're celebrities, so it's in the news, but it's between them. Sounds pretty awful though. That's where I'm at on that. Subaru the car, excellent car, by the way. Hi, what's my view on possible Okinawa's independence from Japan? Likely happens. Oh, you know what? I had a story in here on the reversion of Okinawa, and it didn't show up properly. I don't know why that didn't get reflected. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, today is the 50th anniversary of the reversion of Okinawa. No, I don't think Okinawa's independence from Japan is interesting. Interesting history there, of course. It's funny, while all the coverage of the return of Okinawa focuses on end of World War II, and it starts from 1945, when in fact Okinawa was only incorporated into Japan about 70 years before World War II. It was like 1880 or whatever. So what was that, like 60 years? So it's actually almost the same period back from when it came back to Japan. Like 50 years back from World War II, it was a separate, kingdom. It was not clearly part of Japan. It was integrated pretty late. And then what was it? The fact that Okinawa was a vassal state, it paid tribute to China, And Japan sort of jumped in, and it had a secret sort of backdoor relationship with Japan while it was paying tribute to China. By the way, very similar relationship that Korea had with China as well. It paid a tribute. And by China's standards, when they say what the real China map should be, when they talk about the South China Sea or whatever, they say it's not just true China, but every country that was paying them tribute was acknowledging their sovereignty, and all of those places. And in unguarded moments, China says that Okinawa was actually is also part of traditional China, and it's in their interest to say that as well, because its location actually Okinawa combined with Taiwan are able to basically blockade the whole north half of China. So that's why China is uncomfortable with Okinawa sort of being, full of US bases and part of Japan and hostile towards China. But the fact is, Okinawa was always sort of a small country sort of trying to play off Japan and foreign powers and China, and always in the middle, but it was a kingdom. It was funny, during the reversion, there wasn't much of there's never been a lot of support for independence in Okinawa, even in the 1970s. There was a debate whether it should be independent or go back to Japan. But it's always been like less than 5% that are actually in favor of independence, and that's entirely up to Okinawa, of course. For what it's worth, although their dialect is very different to regular Japanese, everybody down there is educated in Japanese, and it's been part of Japan for, as long as Hokkaido. So although there is cultural distinction, and most Japanese people don't appreciate, just how different Okinawa really is, the idea of independence is a little bit off the cards. It is interesting looking at the different views, however, on the US bases. A lot of people pointing out, a lot of documentaries happening on Okinawa at the moment, a lot of people pointing out that, under US rule until 1972, people really felt like they were under US occupation, because the main island was so covered in US military bases, and US military personnel were everywhere. And they were immune from, prosecution on crimes from regular police and so on. Yet after the reversion, that situation stayed the same. The number of bases in Okinawa hardly reduced. The state of forces agreement stayed the same. And there have been serious cases of murders and rapes and so on, that, as well as just accidents, air accidents and so on, where, U.S. militaries had no accountability as normal, to the local police or local justice. And so the sense of sort of, invasion and intrusion and sort of injustice towards the US forces that exist by people who generally are already hostile towards. A lot of Okinawans, of course, work on the bases and benefit from the bases, and the bases do contribute a not insignificant amount to the economy down in Okinawa. And there are a lot of pro-base people, but overall, the votes and the referenda and so on in Okinawa show that, the vast majority of Okinawans feel like they have an unreasonable burden. 80% of all the US bases in Japan are in Okinawa. And those islands are still covered in US bases, and they have the run of the place still. And and the economy down there has never developed. It's never caught up to the rest of Japan the way it should. They've got high unemployment. They've missed out on Japan's economic sort of boom. And America still pretty much has its way with them down there. And the story which I had in here, which I meant to show, was a commentary in the Nikkei by two US security experts that talk about how important Okinawa's location is for American interests and for security and stability, for both the Philippines, for Taiwan, for Korea, for keeping whole of Northeast Asia stable. Okinawa is like vital, and you couldn't just relocate those troops and put them, in Hokkaido Prefecture or Tokyo Prefecture and have the same effect. So from a US perspective, they have to be in Okinawa. Okinawa is just a dream strategic location to have all their forces located. But of course, i.e. sucks to be Okinawa. For all of that, there doesn't seem to be much sentiment of regretting going back to Okinawa, or no views that people think they would be better off being part of the United States or anything like that. I think it's just kind of normalized that Japanese are becoming more and more sort of used to the situation. A lot of Okinawans pointing out that they've grown up with the US-based situation as normal. It's becoming more accepted. But yeah, still it's funny, out of all of that, there's not a lot of independent sentiment, so what can you do? More comments there. We've got one Johnson, Okinawa 50th anniversary. What do I think about being painted by the same brush for various crimes committed by US military members when visiting there? You mean me? Well, look, I think even Okinawans acknowledge that the number of high-profile crimes has gone down. The ones that were there, the very worst ones, including the gang rape of a child, there in the late 1990s that really, really, that actually forced the agreement on the relocation of the whole Denmark Marine base. And the misconduct of Marines and bad behavior of Marines. You really don't see that in the news anymore, which implies to me that they've gotten a better control of discipline down there and they know how serious the consequences are. I mean, effectively, although they still haven't shut down and moved the base yet, they've forced the Americans to build a multi-billion-dollar base to move Denmark over a single rape, which should never have happened. But, it's good that the U.S. government paid a high tax for it. And, the U.S. forces were quarantined, were kept on base for a long time as a result of those things. So I think the U.S. forces down there have been collectively, and a lot of people argued unfairly, collectively punished for the wrongs of a few bad eggs, you might say. But yeah, they're foreign troops. Imagine if foreign troops came to your country and did things like that to people. It would cause resentment at the presence of those troops. So yeah, that's what happens. I've been down there. I didn't feel. I don't think that there's this sort of resentment against U.S. forces in general anymore. There have been times like the 1990s where that resentment was high. I didn't feel anything. I don't think I was mistaken for U.S. military anyway myself. DJ Sunny Side Up, you fixed your audio problems on Twitch streams, had a compression filter on your desktop that did not remember adding when it was... Okay, so there we go, back in action. The master dep is just a dep sometimes. It means baka in German. Yeah, well, I definitely get that. Dan H., you dirty Japanese imperialist, calling it by its false name and not the true, not the Ryukyu Islands. Well, even Ryukyu is a Japanization of the Japanese name. It's actually Ryukyu. It's actually Liuchiu. That's what the Chinese call it, and that's closer to what it was in the original Okinawan dialect. So, yeah, there you go. But then you start getting to get into the Chinese name, and then it gets very awkward. DJ Sunny Side Up just got a microphone, cheap USB microphone. Works well. Glad that it does. Wow, and with that, we've rocked up on time. Shall I play a track? I'm going to play a track just to go out. I do want to check that I'm not maxing the outputs like I was last time. So I am going to plug this in and just looking. Let's play an outro tag. Somebody give me a style of music. I haven't done this for so long. I'm going to play an outro. Wow, Shubis was one of those troops in Okinawa during Vietnam War. Serious? Wow, that's something. I mean, Okinawa, geez, that must have been a nice place to go when everything was going crazy. Oh, look at that. We lost the feed. I'm going to reconnect that just for the sake of it. I'm going to take these off. Oh, in fact, that's right. That won't work because I have plugged in the chaosilator. Okay, let's see. Jazz. Someone says jazz. Okay, let's try jazz. Jazz was the first request, so let me check. Okay, that's working. And that should not be maxing out. Okay. Okay, let's make a new track. New. Let's make it 80 BPM. Let's do some sort of hip hop jazz. We'll see what I can do with that. 82. How can I get it jazzy? I guess I want some sort of hi-hats. Let's make it a jazzy beat. Okay, not a bad start. Let's find kind of a jazzy fuller beat. Okay, let's go for a jazzy bass. Let's start that again. key. Sucks. Not that. Bit of an outro. I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. Have a good week, everybody. Do take care. Remember, don't catch the rhino. Good to see everybody here in the chat. Oh, Jungle, good choice, Bob Sander. That's more normally what I'd like to do, but I'm just going to leave it with this. Crypto Airy, great to have you in here, Crypto Airy. Great to see everybody in here. Do remember to like if you like. I do appreciate that. Come back, see me 10:30 next week. Stay safe. Have a good one, everyone. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter. Leave a comment, like if you like. Remember to subscribe. And boom, that's it. Peace. See you later.